So now you know pretty much everything as to how to set up and adjust and organize the very core of your documents. But how about saving some of these options as templates and to be able to recall them later on? Well, one of the things I like to do is empty the document. Basically, once you start adding color, swatches, and patterns and graphic styles and such, the generic default swatches and styles that come with new documents can be somewhat distracting, and it takes longer to find your swatches in a list that's already maybe got 100 swatches in there. Now, you can see that here in our CMYK document. Our swatches palette is full, okay? And if we switch over to our RGB document, you'll see that the same rules apply, because these documents were created from scratch. They are built on templates that Illustrator has, and therefore there are a series of swatches in here. And in fact, if we just expand our panels over here, and sometimes the graphic styles are fairly straightforward. Back in the CMYK, you can see there are more as well. So sometimes it's just nice to start with a clean and empty document, and this is something that we do here in the studio. We empty a file out, and then it's ready to be added to. So what I would suggest here in our RGB file, first thing we'll do is rename our artboards here, because we've done that in our CMYK document, so we should stay consistent. Now I'm going to do this fairly quickly by bringing up the tool and making sure the artboard is highlighted. Let's come up here to the control panel, and I'll name this HD Interstitial. Okay. And let's select artboard number 2, and we'll simply highlight this one and call it Homepage Design. All right. Artboard 3, we can simply name Web Banner V1. And of course, our fourth one will be Web Banner V2. Okay, now in the swatches palette, we basically want to empty out all of these swatches so that when we start adding color, we're not sort of scrolling all the way down the bottom of this list and trying to find them, okay? Now, this is totally up to you. This is, like I say, something that we do. We like to have clean documents to start with, and sometimes when you're learning, it's a little easier to use the default swatches, but with the processes that we're doing here, I think you'll find it quite useful. So what we can do is come into the flyout menu on the side of the swatches panel and choose Select All Unused, and that will highlight every color that it hasn't seen actively used inside our document. So some may be selected, some may not be. Now, when it highlights them all you have to do is click on one of them that's selected and then drag them down into the tiny little bin that's in the corner here of the panel. Okay, so when we do that, you'll see we're left with a much smaller amount of swatches, which is great. We do have white and black as a default. We have the dense CMYK black, which is a color I've mixed in this artwork over here, so we want to keep that. And likewise, there's already a pattern in here. Now, we'll see how to do these things later on. Now, grays is also in there with another default swatch, so I'm going to go ahead and click and drag the grays folder into the bin as well. So now our swatches panel is nice and empty. So with that set and our artboard's already named, what we could do is save this as a template for our digital assets in the future. Okay, so let's go out to the File menu, go down and choose Save as Template. Now this will drop it into the default templates folder for Illustrator so that next time you ask to create a new document from a template, it knows exactly where to find it. All right. Now I'm going to rename this Digital Marketing Pieces RGB, just so I know it's an RGB file. And it's going to be saved as an AIT, Adobe Illustrator template file, okay? And you can see here it's automatically including all 4 artboards, so it's very, very cool. Now, if we go ahead and hit save, on Windows, you may get a warning saying that you need to contact the administrator to obtain permission to save the file in this location. If that comes up, don't worry, you can always save it somewhere else, but just remember where you saved it so that you can call it up when you need to use it. So now that you can see that's stored up here, so in fact, we can close this one down. And just as an example, if we now went to the File menu and said New from Template, you can see that our digital assets file is right here, okay? So if we select that and just hit New, you can see it brings up that exact replica document with everything in place. The naming, the clean swatches, even the artwork that we had in place has been saved with it. Whether you'd want that or not, that's up to you, but it's very cool that all of these settings have been remembered, okay? So close that down. We don't need that one. We can pull that back later in time. Now, likewise, we should probably also close down our banner design because what we want to do now is focus on this document. This is our master CMYK file. So again, let's keep the file tidy and clean up any excess swatches so we can work sort of more efficiently in the future. So we can go back out of our artboards tool, Come over to the swatches once again, pull the flyout menu from the side and choose select all unused. Grab any one of those that's now highlighted and drop that into the bin, and you'll see that we're left with a handful of other colors. Now, some of these are featured. The reason that these are left here is that some of them are also featured in graphic style. So just as a backup, what I would do is expand our second dock of panels here and do the same thing in the styles. Again, this is totally up to you. You don't have to remove these. I'm just showing you the examples here, okay? So I'm just going to choose select all unused, drag them into the bin, and you'll notice it does leave one. By default, graphic styles has to contain one default style, but this is editable, and I'm going to show you a nice way to do that later on. A lot of people think you can't change that, but you can. Okay, so now that that's been done, we can probably drag each of these into the trash as well. Just keep it nice and tidy, because we have no other color in our document. We really don't have any swatches in there right now, so I'll just tidy that up. So once again, now that all of these artboards have been named, we've got our swatches in here. We don't need to save this as a template. What we're going to do here is save this as a document. This is our actual artwork here. So just simply go to File and choose Save. I'm going to call this our print campaign because these 3 items in here are all CMYK print. And what I'll do is also choose to save this down to the desktop, okay? So it's in the same location as your project files as well, so you can call these back later on. So just go ahead and click Save. We'll keep the version currently as CS5. I'm really not going to change anything in there. All I want to do is click OK and guarantee that our document is now saved to the hard drive with all of these things now set. So now that you know how to set absolutely everything up with regards to your documents, both in CMYK and RGB, we're now ready to start creating artwork.